And then they mash up Snyder's Court of Owls storyline with Tomasi's Born to Kill storyline, which are about two completely different things. And as usual, they refuse to acknowledge Tim Drake in these adaptations. So they're putting Damian Wayne in Hush? That's ridiculous! And don't get me started on that animated version of The Killing Joke. I mean, the part that's actually from the story is okay, but that 30-minute preamble was just
General? Sir? Didn't you meet me here to announce something? Like, I don't know, some kind of promotion?
It was really just an apology to the Batgirl fans that hate The Killing Joke, but it ultimately gave her even less agency when... No. You're just the only one who wasn't busy, Glasses Guy. Try to keep up, I'm really going here.
You really ought to apologize to Terry. You usually hang out with him when Pen-Pen's not around. And after what you said...
Terry's just being a big baby. Taking leave. Anyway, where's that waitress? I am chomping at the bit to get some appetizers.
Champing.
What?
Champing at the bit. Not chomping, champing. The horse can't bite down on the bit. It can only grind, champ at it, with its teeth.
I see. Well, most people use chomping now.
Most people are wrong. Weren't you an English major?
Look, if you think I'm gonna let some little pissant bridge jockey tell me how to speak, you've got another thing coming.
Actually, sir, it's another think coming.
What? Since when?
Since always. That's the proper phrase. Another think. It means that the thing you're currently thinking is flawed, but if you give it another thought, you'll get it right. Another think coming.
What? Bullshit! It's another thing! You're expecting one thing, that I'll say champing at the bit, but instead, the thing you'll be getting is me not doing that. Another thing coming. The opposite of the conclusion you want me to come to, or action you want me to do.
Well, that's cute, but it's wrong.
I don't know why I let you pay for my lunch, Glasses Guy.
What? You're not paying?
Well, I'm providing the entertainment.
Don't you have an anime to go review?
Not before I at least get some appetizers. Ooh, fried cheese. Truth here, and it's time for another episode of Otaku Evolution. Years ago, I looked at the 26-episode classic, The Vision of Escaflowne from 1996. It was a wondrous mix of fantasy and mecha, emphasis on the former, and it's one of my favorite titles. Well, in 2000, a movie version of Escaflowne was released. But it wasn't your typical compilation movie with daisy-chained episodes, but rather a reimagining. Think The Adolescence of Utena. I recall enjoying it when I first saw it on DVD, so I wanted to go see if it stands up as well as the TV series. It's junk. Gorgeously rendered junk. Escaflowne, if you'll recall, is a story about Hitomi Kanzaki, a Japanese schoolgirl who is one day whisked away to a mystical land called Gaia, where she becomes involved in a war between the evil Zybok Empire and the rest of the nations. By her side is the king of a destroyed kingdom, Vaughn, master swordsman Alan Shazar, and Vaughn's clingy catgirl pal, Merle. They fight against the evil emperor Dornkirk, his tactician and Vaughn's brother, Folken, and the unhinged lunatic Delandau, for the fate of that world. Oh, and Vaughn controls a giant robot armor, or Guy Melif, called Escaflowne. Well, the movie contains elements, I suppose would be the best term, of the original TV series, but rearranges a bit, simplifies some things, and even shifts focus. Plus, it's a shitload more bloody. The first few minutes are just Vaughn utterly massacring some mooks. It's an interesting case study in how something that might have worked ultimately didn't so much. Because while the Escaflowne movie has fantastic production values, it just did not need to exist, and cannot make an argument for why it should.
Grant us the dragon's power in the shelter of your wings. Please, together with us.
Instead of the mostly ordinary teen of the TV series who has an interest in tarot reading and track team, the Hitomi of this movie is severely depressed, near suicidal, and almost completely detached from her world. She's drawn to Gaia by Folken, here with a more hardline villain motivation of destroying the world. Because, suffering? Vaughn is more hostile and revenge-obsessed, and it takes a near-death experience for him to soften at all to Hitomi. Actually, it kind of takes two to get him to let things go. Some of us are slow learners. Alan is just the leader of a rebel band who roam the countryside, not in a cool airship, but in some giant oxen-pulled wagon fortress monstrosity. He doesn't have much of a role, simply being there to rein in Vaughn's more impulsive behavior, and to be a contrast to Vaughn's outsider nature. Merle is, well, she's still distinctly Merle.
You're weird! I don't need to hear that from you. Are you really the one? What? Huh? Are you the real wing goddess? I don't know. You should know!
Merle isn't the only one who retains the same portrayal as in the TV series. I was relieved to see that Landau, the psychotic, bloodthirsty sadist pretty boy, is also pretty much the same. Sure, he doesn't have the same backstory, let's not get into spoilers for the show, but his depiction is nearly identical in terms of personality. That is, he's a crazy bastard who only sort of obeys commands, and is basically in the war for enjoyment. He's one of my favorite anime antagonists, because he's so delightfully theatrical. Some of the trappings are different, but Landau remains indulgently wicked.
I hit the wrong target. Oh well, it doesn't matter. That beast was useless to me anyway. All we need to do is snatch that woman, right, Jujuka? Which means we don't need him. So he's not our concern.
Though I do have to ask, why is it that there are only 2 Gaimelefs in the entirety of this movie? You couldn't throw a rock in the Gaia of the TV series without hitting a Melef. Here there's just 2. The legendary Escaflowne, who was foretold to bring destruction, and this red one that doesn't have a name and is just there to fight Escaflowne. I think the movie would have been a little more interesting if at least Alan also had his Gaimelef, or maybe Jujuka had one. It seems almost a shame to be a movie featuring, Escaflowne. We only see it fight once. That's like having a Gundam movie, but it's one of the only 2 mobile suits, and it only fights the other, and that's it. Come on, guys.
I missed? I'll kill you!
The movie wants to emphasize the relationship between Hitomi and Vaughn, drawing a parallel between her depression and Vaughn's inner turmoil over his brother's betrayal of his country. In this version, the younger brother was chosen to be made king next instead of the older, and Folken, well, he didn't take it well. I cannot imagine why they wouldn't have wanted him as a king. Anyway, it's kind of a strange equivalence. Hitomi is emotionally exhausted and fed up with her life. Vaughn's entire country was destroyed by his traitorous brother, who's trying to annihilate the world. Because reasons. Look, I've suffered from depression. I still do. I'm not discounting Hitomi's experience, because it's much the same as mine. It's not something you just get over. But Vaughn's brother is literally trying to destroy the entire world by getting Hitomi to summon Escaflowne to his cause. I'd say Vaughn's pain runs a little bit deeper than hers. And it's odd that a day or two after he threatens her life, she's rushing to stay by his side. The thirst is real.
Vaughn is dying?
Sorrow grips us. It holds on until we take our final breath.
Does he want to die now? Why's that? Why is he so sad? Could it really be that painful? Why does he bear this all on his own? Why? But Vaughn is not alone. I want Vaughn to live too. I will stay with him until he realizes he's not alone.
Ugh, that dialogue. Who wrote this? Teenaged me? A lot of the TV series characters have basically what amounts to token cameos, like Dryden and the Catgirl twins that worked for Folken. I'm not exactly sure why they're here except to nod to the show, because they really don't add anything to the narrative. Somebody like Alan or the Mole Man guy could have just as easily been in the know about the ancient legends to stand in for Dryden. It's kind of frustrating to see an interesting character stripped down to basics. If they had made this 2 movies, perhaps the characters would have had a bit more time to develop and the world would flesh out better. Otherwise, they should have just had a smaller group of characters and wasted less time pretending these people matter. I would have especially liked if they went into Vaughn's connection to the village he's brought to recover from his wounds. Obviously, the natives are beast people, but Vaughn is not. Was this part of Vaughn's old kingdom, or some kind of ally settlement? It seems like the only beast person who ranks very highly in society is Jijuka in Folken's army. Given the ending, they should have explored how the presumed caste system works. But again, the movie is more interested in Hitomi's burgeoning relationship with Vaughn. The only thing is, it's not a very healthy one. We all like to romanticize the story of 2 people thrust together in tense circumstances, or 2 damaged people who complete each other, but we're talking about 2 teens from 2 different worlds, both fundamentally broken, and they're this close after just a few days? Yikes. They don't even know if they share the same interests. They don't know if they're sexually or romantically compatible. You don't base a relationship on, hey, I'm sad and lonely, let's lick each other's wounds. I'm no expert in relationships. I'm not even a novice at them. I rarely even leave the house and talk to people. But, if only fools rush in, these 2 are idiots of the highest magnitude. They need therapy, not romance. It's said that sometimes the best way to help yourself is by helping somebody else. But I don't think they mean constantly put your life at risk for some guy you just met and pledging to always be with him because you're 2 lost souls bound together after barely meeting. Sure, she has to reach out to Vaughn to get Escaflowne calmed down before it destroys everything, and trying to help him through his pain is positive, but this isn't magically going to cure your depression, Hitomi. What happens when you're back at home in your same depressing life? This adventure was a diversion, not a fucking search lane!
It's just that I always feel sleepy. I feel sleepy all the time. Maybe something's wrong with me. I don't know why. Maybe I'm too exhausted. Everyone looks so energetic, but I'm not. That's why I sleep.
But at least the production values are aces. I mean, just look at the detail in the world of Gaia. This thing should be called Beautiful Establishing Shots, the movie, because it's one beautifully rendered setting after another here. I mean, you just want to frame some of these designs and hang them up in your home. The animation, so far as I can tell, is excellent. Plenty of movement, not a lot of off-model character designs and scenes. The action is swift and brutal. I'm also fond of, for lack of better term, shot composition and cinematography. And do I even really need to add that Yoko Kanno's music is just as magical as in the TV show? Actually, I think the soundtrack might be better in some places. Like Gundam 0083, despite its flaws, the Escaflowne movie is a feast for the senses. I mean, except your sense of catharsis, because yikes, what an anticlimax. After regaining his sense of self before he destroys Gaia with Escaflowne, Vaughn flies himself and Hitomi to Folken's floating fortress to confront him. After all the lives he has taken, and desires to take, it's time for a final showdown. Folken has to pay for his crimes, possibly with his life if he resists. But if you're expecting some grand sword clash between the brothers, you're going to be sorely disappointed. Vaughn refuses to fight him, and it's Jijuka out of nowhere that resolves the conflict. A dude who's had less dialogue than Alan in this. Less dialogue than Mole Man.
They're finished.
Wow. Thank you so much, sir.
Be so kind as to pay me.
Oh! Don't you do business here, you quack!
Granted, the TV series ending could be seen as not exactly a fulfilling climax in terms of final battle. Good entertainment doesn't necessarily need that. But at least there was a final battle, even if it wasn't with Dornkirk, not like he's a combatant anyway, and there wasn't really any build-up to a fight with him either. Here, I really felt like Vaughn should have fought at least a minute or two before taking the pacifist route. Jijuka's revenge rings hollow. Then there's Folken's stated reasoning for wanting to destroy Gaia, to end all suffering, which is like an edgy Final Fantasy final boss. Dude, if you want to leave the party, there's the door. Some of us are enjoying ourselves. Or at least more than the alternative, as far as we know. They don't have any slam poetry nights on Gaia for this morose Bowie impersonating jackoff. Honestly, the whole ending feels a bit unearned, because most of the characters didn't really justify their existence, so it's hard to care about their happy ending. And as I mentioned, Vaughn and Hitomi's relationship feels a bit hurried, and doomed to failure. Well, she goes back home, so I guess it couldn't last anyway. De Landau's happy ending, however, is duly earned. Riding off to find another war to fight in. You live your best life, you fucking magnificent slaughterer. Fare thee well, good sir. So, yeah, the Escaflowne movie. Why do I like it? There's not much to it aside from being pretty and having great music. At least Redline was self-aware. This movie is convinced of its own significance and luster. By all rights, I should think this blows. But thing is, I don't. It's definitely a hot mess. But there's something about its storybook-like nature and a flick of emotional earnesty, even if it's incompetently framed, that make me rewatch it from time to time. Definitely not a favorite, but not a waste of time either. Though, if you want my advice, you're gonna get a lot more from the TV show. Anyway, that's enough Otaku Evolution for now. Not really sure what I'm getting to next, but stay tuned. I'll think of something. Until then, see ya!
You fill up my senses like a night in a forest, like the mountains in springtime, like a walk in the rain, like a storm in the desert, like a sleepy blue ocean. You fill up my senses, come fill me again.
Wing